I'm power scaling all the Kwamis to see which would win in an all-out brawl. We've power scaled the Miraculouses and know which are the strongest and which are the weakest, but we don't know which Miraculous would beat the others in combat. If all the Kwamis and the Miraculous faced off in battle, which would come out victorious? There can only be one champion, and today we're going to figure out which Kwami that is. To figure this out, at first I was going to set up a bracket system and have every Kwami 1v1 each other until we reached a verdict. But I figured out pretty quick that a bracket system would just not work for our type of battle, because depending on how the bracket tiers are set up from the beginning would directly impact the final results. While some Kwamis are obviously stronger than others and would crush it in just about every fight, there is just simply a counter for every Miraculous, meaning that I can have whatever outcome I want if I just set it up correctly at the beginning. For example, the Bull Miraculous would directly counter the cat, but the cat is obviously stronger. So setting those two up in the beginning to fight would just negate how strong the cat actually is. Instead of a classic bracket fight, I looked into each and every Kwami and counted how many each would totally dominate battles against the rest and how many would get completely destroyed by others. The winner is going to be the Miraculous that would be able to beat the most of every other Kwami with the least amount of counters. So let's get into it. If you have any guesses which Kwami is coming in last, comment them now because I'm about to tell you. Sadly, the Dog Miraculous actually ends up losing first. With the ability to retrieve any object touched by their ball, there are not a lot of options when it comes to actually fighting. Their suit also does not come with any combat gear like weapons or shields, making winning fights against anyone pretty impossible. Their ability to retrieve objects does actually counter a couple of the heaviest hitters. Characters who create objects to fight with, such as Ladybug and the Goat, might have a trouble keeping the dog from stealing their objects and using them for their advantage. Furthermore, the Peacock and Butterfly must contain their powers in a specific object. With the dog's whole thing being retrieving objects, they would also have a hard time transforming if the dog is able to constantly retrieve them. Since most of the fighters don't actually require objects to win, the dog is definitely getting destroyed in just about every fight, making it lose almost instantly. Not far behind is the Ox Miraculous, being completely countered by the majority of other Kwamis. The Ox's power is invulnerability to the other Kwami's powers. You'd think that if your main thing was deflecting the rest of the fighters, you'd stand more of a chance, but you'd be wrong. While the Ox Miraculous would have no trouble taking up fighters with physically altering abilities such as the Cat, Bee, Tiger, and Eagle, the rest of the roster uses different forms of damage that the Ox is just not able to negate. We've seen wearers of the Ox Miraculous take full damage of physical impacts from outside forces, meaning any fighter that uses tools instead of just their abilities will have a solid chance of winning this fight, which is pretty much all of the other heroes. With nothing but his weapon to use in combat, the Ox is easily defeated. This leads us into our next fighter. With the ability to freeze any opponent, the Bee Miraculous is next to lose. While his power is really useful in combat, the only sure wins would come from short-range fighters who do not have any similar abilities. For example, the Bee could take on fighters like the Cat, Tiger, or Pig, but there is no guarantee that the Bee could land a hit first. Since these fighters pretty much have the same style fighting, we cannot be certain that the Bee could come out on top, majority of the time, since one hit from either side is going to end the fight immediately. We can, however, be sure that any character who can block this attack, like the Turtle, Ox, and probably even the Goat, would then easily win the fight. There are just too many fighters who can match or defeat the Bee's level, making the Bee's victory unlikely. Next to follow is the Tiger Miraculous. The Tiger's power is wielding a very strong punch. This power works really well, destroying large areas and objects, making opponents like the Turtle, Mouse, Fox, and the Peacock sentient monsters easily defeatable. Unfortunately, they are not the only opponent of the Tiger. Unlike the Cat's instant destruction, the Tiger appears to require a short charge up before actually landing her punch. This would still pay off in many situations as she does not need to aim as precisely, but it does, however, make her power punches that much easier to dodge. Quick characters who can move fast like the Horse, Dragon, Bunny, and Cat easily dodge her attacks. The Rooster and Butterfly can give themselves speed or teleportation, while the Snake has plenty of time to second chance the situation. There are so many ways to avoid the Tiger's punch that someone wouldn't even need to try to counter it. Since so many Kwamis grant faster abilities, the Tiger is just too slow to keep up. The power of the monkey is on the chopping block next, and similar to the Ox's power, the monkey's purpose is to disrupt and mess with other Kwami's abilities. This means if he hits them with his toy projectile, their powers are completely useless for a good amount of time. Although this could resolve a lot of conflicts peacefully, the monkey turns out to be more of a passive player, as they have little powers to actually attack once their opponent's powers are negated. Their dexterity and choice weapon are better than nothing, but many fighters don't need their powers to make quick work of a monkey. Assuming that the monkey's powers work on anything they touch, fighters like the Turtle and Peacock may be the only definite losers here. The rest are either too close to the side or absolutely demolishing the monkey. Following the chimp is the Fox, because her power is to create illusions. This is another passive ability that is useful for defense, but can't really do much for offensive fighting. She might have a good chance taking out quick fighters like the cat, eagle, and monkey if she gave them constant confusion and little time to react. But fighters who can easily destroy illusions like the peacock, dragon, tiger, and others wouldn't need time to figure out what is real or not because they can simply blast their way through. The illusions aren't exactly hard to destroy. Also, the ability requires heavily on trickery and manipulation, which often works best when you don't know who your opponent is. Since most characters would get past the Sly Fox's tricks, she wouldn't stand a chance in the end. Most of you probably expected the turtle to be closer to the last, but here is where he stands now. With the ability to create any size dome barrier, the Turtle Miraculous works great for self-defense and containment. It even comes with a throwable shield you can use to protect yourself up close and do damage from further away. While having a magic shield like this is nice, it's surprisingly weak. It's been seen breaking many times, and it's not even by other Miraculouses. The strength of the shield seems to vary from different factors such as distance and strength of the holder, but since it's able to break so simply, it would not last long in a lot of these fights. It can block attacks from the pig, bee, and eagle, but will get destroyed by the cat, tiger, peacock, butterfly, and rooster. Not to mention, fighters who can teleport like the horse and bunny are able to get in and out of the shield with ease. With so many ways around and through the shield, the turtle just can't seem to put up much of a fight. If you didn't know, the Eagle Kwami was introduced in the New York special, and she's next up on the losers list. Her power isn't exactly clear, and they only show it once when the villain is using it, but basically, she's supposed to make people feel liberated from their mental restrictions. I know, it's dumb, and I thought the Pig Miraculous was useless. I am giving the Eagle Miraculous the biggest benefit of the doubt here, and I'm gonna say that they would counter any fighter whose theme is destruction, like the Cat and Tiger, as well as powers that give a lot of powerful options outside of fighting that might make someone want to use them negatively if they had the chance, like we see the villain use in the New York special. This would apply to the bunny, butterfly, and rooster. Lastly, since the eagle grants some kind of weapon thingy, she beat the dog because the dog can't fight back. The eagle's powers just don't make sense. And if the other holders are able to resist and continue to fight, then the eagle would end up being last. But here I'm just gonna assume they aren't. I think here in 15th place is where the eagle stands best. The Mouse Miraculous is next, and it's kind of complicated. On one hand, it lets you shrink down and multiply yourself to the point of having a huge miniature army, but then the other hand, it's a miniature army armed with nothing but a jump rope. We've seen how many mini duplicates one can make at a time, and it's a scary amount. Imagine just a storm of humanoid mice flooding towards you. I think that'd be pretty terrifying. Fighters like the pig, bee, ox, monkey, dog, and others are gonna get swarmed, being overwhelmed before they can react fast enough. Their abilities just wouldn't work against an army like this. Fighters with fast and versatile powers like the ladybug, peacock, butterfly, and rooster can find many ways to destroy and avoid the mouse army. Also, the cat and tiger could hold their own against them, destroying any mini mouse that gets close. It'd be a slaughter, but there are quite a lot of Miraculouses that could take out the masked Kwami. The Prodigious isn't technically a Miraculous, but it's on the same power level as them, so we're adding it to the fight. The Prodigious grants the ability to turn into 8 different animals: horse, falcon, bear, snake, tiger, monkey, grasshopper, and dragon. However, you must be in the correct state of mind to do so. Most of these animal transformations will not be very useful in a fight. The dragon is the best option and ultimately wins the majority of these battles. The power of the dragon could easily take out the turtle, fox, goat, monkey, and others. I know the dragon doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but it can also control some of the elements, and we've seen before how it is able to specifically target its lightning so accurately that it is able to break the ring off of a finger from far away. This means the peacock and butterfly would get cooked because the dragon form is going to instantly break the object storing their powers. While the dragon form is strong, it's not going to take out everyone. The pig and bee can still affect it easily, and being a giant dragon only turns it into a larger target. Also, the dragon Kwami would stand a pretty good chance since they can actually turn into the elements that the dragon form is controlling. Lastly, the Eagle Miraculous might actually be the strongest power in this fight because it can change your state of mind, completely making the Prodigious unusable. Since you have to be in the right state of mind to use its powers, the Eagle Miraculous can totally alter it. If the Eagle can keep the Prodigious holder from being able to transform, then it doesn't stand a chance. Speaking of bird Kwamis, surprisingly, the peacock would fall next. It has tons of variety and fighting capability, being able to summon any kind of monster with all sorts of powers. We've seen sentient monsters be huge beasts, but also specific duplicates of fighters with similar powers too. So you're probably wondering why it isn't closer to the top of the list. It's because of one thing that many people overlook. The sentient monster is controlled through a specific object. Break that object and the monster is defeated. This is obviously a pretty difficult task for the majority of fighters, but there are a good amount that can easily accomplish this. The peacock has no real self-defense outside of creating these monsters, so if you can get past the monster to fight the peacock holder, you can take them down no trouble. Mainly, the stronger kwamis such as snake, bunny, ladybug, and butterfly could do this. But other Miraculouses like the bee, tiger, and monkey can also affect the sentient monster head-on with ease, completely negating the entire fight. The peacock would put up a good fight, but ultimately takes the L. A lot of you are gonna hate me for this, but next up would be the black cat Miraculous. Look, the cat is great. His cataclysm can destroy anything he touches along with his opponents. He'd be able to take out plenty of the fighters, but there are just too many that can avoid and beat him first. Fighters who are also close range like the bee and tiger aren't a guaranteed win, since it's basically whoever lands a hit first. And any other attacker simply needs to keep their distance if they don't want to get turned into dust, which actually turns out to be a lot of the cast. The ladybug, peacock, horse, and dragon don't need to get close to the cat to win. Simply keeping their distance will ensure their victory. In any situation where the cat can land a hit, he is sure to win, but since those situations are so few, the cat just isn't as strong as he appears to be. I know I always talk about how bad the pig in Miraculous is, but it ended up way higher on the list than I ever would have expected. The power of the pig allows viewers to see their greatest desire. I know, this is not very effective in battle, but the pig can actually trap them inside this vision for quite some time, giving plenty of opportunity to win. Any fighter who relies on close combat is quickly getting taken out by this. However, most of the other Miraculouses allow plenty of options to avoid a close counter with the pig. It basically boils down to, if you don't get stuck in a vision, you're winning the fight. So, the pig, not as bad as I'd always say, but definitely not the best. With the power to create whatever you want, the goat Miraculous falls next. Similar to Ladybug, the goat is able to create just about any object you can imagine. We haven't really seen if you can create more than one object at a time, but I'm gonna say that you can. I think this one is pretty cut and dry. It can make plenty of weapons to keep their opponents guessing, as well as any kind of defense. Some kwamis are just too strong, and would eventually be able to overpower the goat in the end. A lot of these kwamis are able to destroy objects with ease, so the goat isn't going to make it to the top. These next two come in pretty close. The Miraculouses are the horse and bunny. The horse is practically a super trash version of the bunny because both can open portals anywhere, but only the bunny can lead to anywhere in time. Portals come in very handy during combat, giving you the edge of surprise and mobility as long as your opponent doesn't follow you through. Since the horse also has a projectile weapon, he's able to constantly keep his distance and wear down his opponent over time. The bunny does not have this kind of strat, and must rely on their agility to not get caught. However, having the ability to go back to any point during the battle is definitely going to give the bunny the edge, making it come out just above the horse Miraculous. Here's where we start getting into the most powerful kwamis. Starting off the top 5 winners is the Butterfly Miraculous. No wonder Hawkmoth has so much luck keeping Paris on their toes. The butterfly gives the ability to grant anyone, including yourself, whatever power you want, not limited to the powers of other Miraculouses. This is so overpowered. You have access to any power you can imagine, and you don't even have to have other Miraculouses to use them. However, there is a catch that makes winning battles a little more tricky. If the item that your Akuma is in breaks, you lose your powers immediately. These objects are also pretty easy to break if you can get close enough. So characters who can reach them quickly are going to take out the butterfly no matter what power they use. There are a couple characters who shouldn't have trouble with this. Also, both time travel kwamis can keep trying to destroy the object until they get it without having to actually fight that much. Ladybug is also seen fully countering the butterfly every episode, so there's that. However, most other Miraculouses are definitely losing to the power of the butterfly. Right after the butterfly, the Ladybug Miraculous is next to fall, coming in 4th. I know, I wanted it to win too, especially because it's theoretically supposed to be the strongest, but whatever. The Ladybug is similar to the Goat Miraculous as it lets you create any object. However, it does not appear that you have any control over what object is going to be made, and you can only create one object at a time. Fortunately, this object is supposed to help you win in any situation if you are able to figure out how to use it correctly. This is almost a guarantee win in most cases. However, some fighters can actually counter this. Fighters who can easily separate objects from their holder, such as the cat and dog, pretty much destroy any chance of using the lucky charm. Also, if the monkey touches the lucky charm, it will mess up her powers as well. However, in just about every other fight, Ladybug is sure to win, putting her in 4th place. Starting off the big top 3 winners is the Snake Miraculous. This Kwami lets you save a spot in time and then go back to it like nothing happened, making it great at predicting moves and trying again. It's pretty obvious why this is so high up. Even Ladybug mentions that the Snake Miraculous would be the hardest to deal with.
Viperion is by far the most dangerous. You focus on him.
The snake is going to take out anyone whose moves he can predict, which is basically the entire cast. I think the only exceptions he may lose to would be the pig, bee, cat, and Ladybug. as an instant touch from these guys wouldn't allow him to second chance. Also, Ladybug has been shown to adapt along with whatever new moves the snake tries to pull after second chancing without even knowing. Since Ladybug is able to adapt to these new situations and come out on top, we can deduct that the snake is not invulnerable to everyone. Coming in second place is the Rooster Kwami. Like the power of the butterfly, the Rooster lets the holder give themselves any power they want. They're not supposed to be able to grant powers that other Kwamis already possess, but like I stated in my previous video, there are plenty of ways around this. Unlike the Butterfly Miraculous, there is no object that can be destroyed and remove your powers, so this version is even stronger. And due to its versatility, the Rooster can think of an ability to counter just about every fighter. Need to go fast to catch up to the horse? Power of super speed. Need to keep your distance from the cat? Ability of laser vision. Every Kwami's weakness is going to be used against them. There are only 3 heroes I can think of that might stand a chance against the Rooster. The Ladybug is shown adapting to every change made by Snake, so I think her adaptive problem solving will be just enough to keep the Rooster guessing as well. The monkey will also have a great negative effect, as he is able to disrupt any power that the Rooster switches into, and since the Rooster has no external weapon, he won't have much luck winning. Lastly, the Eagle might actually come in handy for once here. Getting the Rooster distracted with using his own powers however he wants might counter him the greatest. Honestly, I'm not sure what the Eagle is, I just know it's worked similar in the past. Although the Rooster has a way out of just about every problem, there are only a few who would be able to stop him, making him number 2 in most powerful Kwamis. We've looked at all the Kwamis except for one, and this one is taking home the gold. First place for the strongest who would win in a fight against all other Kwamis is the Miraculous of the Dragon. This power lets you control and transform into 3 elements: water, wind, and lightning. I bet you were surprised that the dragon made it so high on the list, but I can tell you why he takes home the gold. The dragon is very versatile with their fighting options. This one is meant purely for combat. It is crazy fast and comes with an actual sword. A legit weapon is gonna come in handy here. Strong hitters like the cat and bee have no effect, because what are they gonna do? Cataclysm the air? The mouse and fox's powers won't work, since we've seen how easily the mice are distributed from an air current, and the fox's illusions can easily be erased with a wave of water or a gust of wind. Fast characters won't be able to keep up despite being able to teleport. The Kwamis who let you pick your power might have some luck, but they can only choose 1 power, while the dragon has access to 3. The dragon is just too powerful to lose. It's crazy fast with plenty of fighting options that every opponent is gonna get swept away. Let's recap the fights and see the order as a whole. In dead last was the dog, followed by the ox, bee, tiger, monkey, fox, turtle, eagle, mouse, the prodigious, and peacock. The top 10 are the cat, pig, goat, horse, bunny, butterfly, ladybug, snake, rooster, and lastly, the dragon Miraculous. I hope you enjoyed my ranking of which Miraculous would win against the others. If you think it should have been a different order, let me know in the comments. Which Kwami and Miraculous do you think would win in an all-out brawl? Also, make sure to like and subscribe for more Miraculous content.